I wish I had happier news, folks, but unfortunately, we got the news that we've all been waiting for. It's not good, that's for sure. This from Scott Gustin. Earlier today, Walt Disney Imagineering filed permits for demolition, infrastructure prep, and utility work on Tom Sawyer's Island. July 6th is the last day to experience Rivers of America, Tom Sawyer's Island, and Liberty Bell at Magic Kingdom. You can see right here, this is the notice of commencement. And it says right here, general description of improvement, demo, infrastructure prep, and utility modification. This by Walt Disney Imagineering. Not good at all. Blog Mickey also has an article for us going over some additional details, but like we kind of get it, right? It's for Villains Land. It's for this Piston Peak Cars Land here. From the look of everything that's going on right now, it would appear they're going full steam ahead on this. You can see right here that there's been a lot of land clearing in the immediate surrounding area of the Rivers of America, just outside the berm of Magic Kingdom. You can see this video from actually Drew Smith here that actually takes a look at the site, and you can see that they're setting up for the laydown yards and the construction materials and so forth. We're going forward with this, and it's disheartening to a lot of people, but I don't see any evidence that they're, applying the brake pedal on this. In fact, they're going full steam ahead. Guys, your immediate thoughts on the imminent destruction of Rivers of America?
I think it's a bad idea, and they're doing it anyways. I think they're a creatively bankrupt company. I was just thinking that,
Yeah, it's well, my first thought that came to my mind was obviously Jeff Valle is not getting his emails.
Huh.
So I guess people don't want this. I said the worst part about it is you could have kept the Rivers of America, you could have kept the island, you could simply have rethemed them. I think it would be so cool if Tom Sawyer's Island would have been some type of a old Western storybook type of place where you're, whether it's tall tales or ghost stories, maybe a section of it's ghost stories, and they build secret tunnels back into Villains Land that way. There's all kinds of different things that they could have played with and kept this here, but there's a very, very specific reason that I believe that they didn't, and that comes down to the Stories Matters group, which was still, I don't know what's going on with that group now. I know they don't have it on the website anymore or anything like that, but I think they're still in play. However, they were very much in play when these decisions were being made, and I think that they said, well, the real Old West and the real frontier is problematic because of such and such and such and whatever fictitious reason they want to believe in their heads. And they said it all has to go. It just seems to me that has to be what happened, because they're replacing it with something that does not in any way, shape, or form represent the actual American frontier. It's a fictitious national park filled with automobiles, which of course is after the time period of the American frontier. And now, of course, you have Splash Mountain, which has been changed into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which also doesn't fit anywhere into that time period of the American frontier. I think, I don't know if they said that they're...
Well, there goes Ron.
They got him.
The Stories Matter came in and took one. Here's the deal when it comes down to it. They don't like Tom Sawyer. They don't like Mark Twain. They like the idea of Mark Twain. They're happy to get a Mark Twain award, but this is a company that has problems with the idea that culture evolves over time, and they think that culture evolves for the better all the time, and they can't stand the idea that it took rugged individualism in order to and manifest destiny in order to fill in the borders here in America, fill out the map, and they would rather have cartoon cars that talk to one another and go ka-chow than have Tom Sawyer Island, which is the spirit of exploration. There are things they could have put on Tom Sawyer Island that would have accentuated that theme. They could have made movies that praise the Tom Sawyer story, or they could have developed properties that they say they're master storytellers. If they're master storytellers, they could have done something other than ripping this out in order to put in cars. They could have made something interesting within the framework of Tom Sawyer. But no, they are just going for whatever they think is the quickest, easiest, most merchandisable in the short term thing that they can do. That was what Ron was going to say.
Well, I do appreciate that, Jonas.
Jonas took over perfectly. Thank you.
Sorry, Ron.
Awesome stuff. Nolan, I want to go to you because, I mean, look, I think you're squarely in the generation that I think Disney would like to appeal to for these renovations and these updates here. Yeah, exactly. Hello, my fellow kids. Okay, there you go. Do you think? I don't know. I mean, to break this down, I guess on maybe the good side of the ledger, the bad side of the ledger. Good side of the ledger, it is a more relevant property than Tom Sawyer's Island, right? Or the Tom Sawyer books, Mark Twain folklore, and everything like that. But at the same time, we are losing what is effectively the heart of Magic Kingdom. Do you think it'll all pay off?
Well, I'm going to use a deep philosophical phrase that a lot of people from my generation like to say. It is called lame. This is very lame. It was so bad it knocked out the lights. My goodness. Anyways, yeah. I think they're getting to me now. They took out Ron, and now they're trying to get to me too. But to make my point, before I bring back this, start paying the power bill again. This isn't going to work. You literally right down the street. We've been saying this week after week, month after month, for maybe years now. Right down the street is Super Mario. Oh, see, you have to say his name. It comes back. And you have to look at, you're trying to compete and stay relevant with a 20-something-year-old brand. Cars is still a big win for boys, but it's not going to give the same drawback that Radiator Springs Racers has over in California. You literally get to see all those characters you identify with, from Lightning McQueen, Mater, Sally, Doc, all of them, and you get a fun, great experience. This is a bunch of characters that are so minor coming into a random spot of the park where it doesn't even fit. Ron was just talking about possibly adding like some Western type films that they could have painted this up and made it kind of like a Woody's Roundup type thing. They could have pulled like they did with the submarine voyage over in Disneyland, retheme into a Nemo attraction. You could have done something without pouring all this dirt into where this water is, draining it out. And for the sake of something that the kids are not going to be all that into, it doesn't have that punch, that wow factor. When you go to Epic Universe and you see those piranha plants and those Mario enemies all moving around, and it's so alive, and the concept stuff they're showing is a bunch of like RTVs and like maneuver vehicles. It just doesn't have that draw. And I think that's the most tragic thing of all this. If they had drained Rivers America, which they should never have done, because Walt would have been disappointed in this. And no, it's clear now with the amount of time that's been from that announcement is the fan base is rejecting this idea. They are not on board. And those are the people you are trying to appeal to. The reality is, if you came in and you were like, all right, we're going to flood this thing and we're going to change it into the Fortnite Battle Arena or the Sonic the Hedgehog Green Hill Zone, you would have had an argument. You don't have an argument here. You look like a fool. And I don't mean that to be mean. I mean that in the way of like, I wish Josh and Bob would just understand that this is a mistake. It's not going to be worth it. And you're destroying so much history. At least, if you repainted this ride, you would have had a cool piece of history and you'd have all your grandparents or whatever talking about, oh, I remember that back when this was Tom Sawyer Island. Now it's the Sonic Extreme Central, there's history to it. When you just completely drain the water, you lose history. It's something completely different now. It's like when you wreck a Chuck E. Cheese and it becomes a Staples building. There's no history to it.
That sounds something like something you're familiar with here, Nolan.
I go back, Jonas. I go back. But
really, when it comes down to it, they don't have anything, and all they've got is destruction. That's the only thing they have left in the queue here. So
it's hard to create and it's easy to destroy. and they've proven that they're very good at destroying things. And we can't even get a Demolition Man ride either. What
the
the
biggest
Sponsored by Taco Bell.
And the biggest issue is that this is Walt Disney, specifically Walt's legacy. He designed the original Tom Sawyer's Island. He's the one that wanted it in the park with Rivers of America and the boats and everything. And it's staying at Disneyland. I hope it stays at Disneyland. So that there is a place that we can go explore this. I, of course, am very biased because this is my home. This is where I grew up. I grew up in Missouri. I grew up with these caves. I went to Merrimack Caverns in Onondaga and saw where, the hideout point for all of these characters were, whether fictional or not. They are very relevant in American history, and that's what Walt wanted. He wanted, the clear definition of the past, fantasy, and the future, and he talks about that. And it's just not going to be there anymore. This really is draining a great deal of the magic out of the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, tremendously. There's no real getting around that fact. Yes, okay, cars far more relevant. You got me. But at what cost? At least Cars Land at Disney California Adventure only added to that park. Here to replace so much of the heart of the Magic Kingdom, the most attended theme park in the world at this point. I don't quite see the upside in doing something like this. That's super, super unfortunate. It is the one, the only Culture Casino Culture. Hey. Hello there, sir.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I just want to say this. The Frontierland that we know and love is still relevant, Vash, and I was listening to these conversations while I was trying to source out why we're being attacked by Disney. I've been watching and monitoring Ron and Nolan disappear from the screen regularly. And first and foremost, I think they're going after you with some Texas Instruments computers at this point. So I think you're safe for the time being. I will say, though, that relevance is there with the lovely Liberty Bell, with the lovely Frontierland, with the lovely Lagoon, with the lovely, what do you call that? Tom Sawyer's Island? Yeah, those are all still relevant. Why? Because these are the touchstones to the past. Disney is a celebration of the past and the future, except they forgot about the future and they don't know how to deal with the past. And you guys accurately pointed out that we've been robbed across the board when it comes to a lot of great attractions over time. And the problem with Disney is that they don't recognize that they're reaching back to an audience that's going to bring their children and their grandchildren through these types of things and be able to talk about, okay, this is because of Mark Twain. This story was very impactful, not only in Walt's life, but in American life at the time. It kind of described a period and left an opportunity for people to explore things that they wouldn't actually consider. And that's basically Disney's message across the board. You may never see these things in real life, but here is what we are, where we were, and what we've become. And look, whether you walk down Main Street, and I'm sure someday that's going to be some kind of advanced technological miracle of the future instead of the old-fashioned reaching back to the turn of the century at the time. And since the honoring of that particular period of time, we've turned another century in this country. And look, we have to be able to have things that are touchstones to the past, the opportunity to go backwards and to learn from our family. Disney was always an opportunity.
Disney's not a museum culture.
Yeah, well, that's actually the most out of context quote that's ever been used, including by one of the, for a long period of time, a genius Imagineers in the business, Marty Sklar. Mm-hmm. But he took that thing so out of context and allows for its misuse because of his flippancy with which he used that statement to try to justify something that was terribly destructive. Believe it or not, I still have nostalgia for the original parking lot at Disneyland, but I'm weird and old. So, because I walked through that parking lot in the middle of the rain with somebody very special to me, and that day kind of solidified the future that I was going to experience in my life, but that's a whole other conversation. What this does is it allows us to talk about these periods in our history in a way that can be crafted by your father, your mother, your grandfather, your grandmother, and et cetera, your cousins. Disney is a family experience. Disney was a family company. Disney is no longer either of those, and they're continuing along a very destructive neo-Marxist path to destroy the past in order to write their own history and future. That's a problem, and it's being done across this country because people have forgotten the hardships that as a country we've had to suffer and what those costs have been. You have to be able to reach back and understand that something like Splash Mountain was a collection of stories from a period of time that why are we trying to forget? We should be trying to remember. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, those are the barges for the light parade that's on the lagoon at night. Regardless, let's just get back to the fact that Disney is still relevant, and I don't care whether or not you have a Cars attraction or not. This park is not the place for that. IP Park is the Hollywood Studios park, and it always has been. This was supposed to be about Disney's original creations through and through, which is why in Disneyland, Toontown made sense. And it could have certainly been an attraction that was added to the IP park, which is the Studios. Right now, Studios is completely underutilized, not built in a way that would conserve the buildable land and allow for people to have some connection to those IPs. But Disneyland Magic Kingdom was never supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be directly tied to Disney, which is why I was in support of rebuilding the extraterrestrial adventure, which I very much enjoyed, thought it was a groundbreaking attraction, being redeveloped into Stitch. It's not as good as the original attraction, but it was still there.
There really is no justification for doing this, especially when you consider, well, the park that's going into. It's going into Magic Kingdom, which has expansive areas of expansion just beyond its berm to the north. There is no reason to get rid of anything. You can have your cake and eat it too. And if you wanted to replace something, why not look at the other side when you have stuff like the Tomorrowland Speedway? Really? Like, and you could have done it in such a way that it covered that blue gray box that you have over there in the Tron Show building. There were a number of different ideas that you could have implemented if you wanted to have a Cars-based attraction or attractions in Magic Kingdom, but they didn't pursue them. Go ahead.
And it would have also added to the elements for the railroad, because that's before you enter the diorama building, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so
you really could have.
That's a good point.
You could have built out the rock wall on both sides, one for Tomorrowland, so that it got a rock face for a similar Cars land to what was built in California, and on the other side, it would have been you just entering that tunnel, into the diorama area, which would have been a natural thing to do. It would have covered up some of the cement tunnel area that maybe isn't as aesthetically pleasing in that area. The whole point being, there are ways that Imagineering could have found to integrate this in a more creative and respectful way. And at the same time, if you want to update something, get rid of the ability for kids to drive, because let me tell you, it's a real nuisance. Get rid of the thing that you claim to be concerned with in the gas-powered vehicles, and just put a Cars, similar to a Cars attraction over there. It all makes sense. What you did was correct. And now the Frontierland is over.
So tragic. It's so sad.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.